That was my chime from my phone that we went live.
Oh, there we go. Welcome to the Project Roundtable.
Welcome to the Briscoe Roundtable, where Angel and I discuss our projects. I only just put the link on our Facebook group. I just marked as an announcement, so hopefully people can see our faces, follow the StreamYard link, and come and join the roundtable. I do know Raymond said that he would be here. So no, actually it was Messenger. Let me just see. Let me just send this to. There we go. Bentley will be here shortly. That was the ping, actually. Not that we went live. Bentley's like, where's the link? On the Facebook group with the rest of the grunts. Although you and I have the StreamYard.
Is it in the prototype?
Is it what?
Is it in the prototype?
No, it is not. I've not added it to there yet.
If you get in the habit of there, you can just point Bentley to there.
Yeah, I don't know, it's true. And there's Shiloh. Shiloh made it before. Device is not connected. It won't let me add you yet. You might need to wait a minute. You might have to go back and out and in order to be re-added.
I think that might be the screen when they're in that pre-screen that like shows your video and shows your audio levels. No? Okay.
Oh, I see what you mean. Maybe. We could test it and see. Good morning, Shiloh. It's funny. Every time someone comes on and they're not quite in screen, I want to change mine so that like somehow I'm like, that doesn't help. Bentley should be here shortly. The link is in the Facebook, but we were posting it to a specific messenger group, and I have gotten slack about that. So, understandably, that's where Bentley expects it to be, and it's Sundays. I'm putting up and I'll do that again tomorrow. The entire list, and then I'm gonna figure out how to make events for the solution raising on Wednesdays, as well as the two together tech ones under the category. I don't know if I figured that out last week after I got your help with it. It was like I was sitting down ready to do it, and then it didn't work.
If it's missing any categories, let me know and I can add those easily. You should be able to add it without them. But I think the thing that you asked about was adding it for projects. So I added the field that now you can specify the project.
Yeah, and I think I'd already went through and added the event, and then I was like, I did all that work. Okay, now. Like we probably should have waited to go live until we were all here.
Probably. This has been a slow start. Sorry, everyone.
No.
This is what it is. And 1 second.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Mom, you clicked off of it.
I'm sorry.
Well,
how's everybody doing?
Should we go ahead and?
Yeah, I can probably go ahead. All right. So Project Roundtable. First part is we all go around and give I think up to 5 minutes, although it never seems to actually hit there. Up to 5 minute update on what we've been up to with our projects over the last week. I think I usually go first, so if somebody else wants to.
I can start us off.
Sure.
I apologize that I don't have my video up again. Hopefully next week. So yeah, for my project, I've been communicating with people in the space of debating see, now I'm a little slow today. Legislation on specific dog breeds and licensing of that. So I've got one person on the side of the argument giving me a lot of really good info, and now I got to go find someone on the other side. I put out a call for people that might want to help me do research, volunteers, and got crickets as usual. So I don't know if I'm gonna have to pay or just spend my own time doing it, which is painful to me. And then or pick a smaller topic. I gotta find something. I don't know, so I might try some smaller topics. I also enhanced the user interface quite a bit, got a lot of really good features. I worked with so the scores are easier to read. There's still some problems with it, so it's not quite intuitive, but it's better. And then I'm working with an architect who wants to use it, and putting in some enhancements for him. He has to get approval from the citizens to do certain things. So it's for citizen engagement on zoning and such. Yeah, I think that's my update. I guess in the coming week, I'm going to finish some enhancements that he wanted. I'm going to try and find a smaller topic, and I'm going to try and continue working on getting... I'm going to try and find another person on the topic I have and see if I can get them used to going back and forth on digging deeper and deeper into the debate. That's it.
I can go next if or not. For solution raising, we had our solution raising on the meta connection this week. And then this coming week on Wednesday, we're doing it on energy, which I can't believe we haven't done one on yet, but it's more of a, how do you solve energy with 10,000 people and $100,000? I don't know. Last week was the first week on Sunday that I put out all of the links to all of the different broadcasts that I participate in for the week that I'm, these two, the Idea Cafe, all of the ones in the morning, although I'm not putting those out on Sunday, and especially the solution raising. And I will be doing that again tomorrow. I'm also going to work on something for what Nick had suggested, where last week on our video, he was like, how do I get involved with Together Tech if I want it to be? It's like, yeah, that should be something that's in. So working on a blurb for Together Tech to be in every description, kind of like I have the I Am Jubilee document, but that's not pertinent to this. It's just for Together Tech. And then maybe we do each want a blurb of what our projects are. So whoever shows up, those are the ones we'll put in, right? So they won't be for when we go live, it'll be for afterwards, but having a link to reason score and wiki election and solution raising, and then a overall Together Tech and how you get involved, which I don't think we have as direct path, but we can talk about that on Friday during our board meeting. It's a little gray area. How do you get involved? How do you want to get involved? And we'll follow the path until it doesn't work. But, and then this coming week, as I said, I have the solution raising on energy. I'm going to put that up, and I'm still looking for people a small group of people to have meetings with on how do we create a process for 10,000 people. But that's fallen a little more to the wayside as I'm figuring out the little pieces that move the other things forward, like a description, like getting the stuff out there and getting it on the events page on the NAC tool. And so that is what I will be doing this week. Next.
Sure, I can go next. So the last week, I've actually been doing a bit of work on sort of trying to verbalize my description of Together Tech, because every time I try, I just sort of like, what is Together Tech? How would I explain it? But for wiki election, I've still been working a bit on the specs and trying to sort of take a step back and figure out what should it actually be doing. One of the things that I actually accomplished over the last week that I had been meaning to was I went through all of the content that I had created. So all the various videos from when I had my Kickstarter going, I had done stuff for that, explainer videos, all the different live streams, to sort of have a catalog of what's out there so I know, so that I can easily reference and say, oh, I can stop reinventing the wheel. I've already made a video that roughly describes that. So I started to do that just so I can get a better grasp on what still needs to be created and what does not. Yeah, and then I'm really hoping to have the specs done in the next week or two, so I can actually get some code to screen, some pen to paper, some however you want to verb that. All right, and that's it.
I guess I'll go next. For me, haven't had access to my studio for like 4 weeks now, and it's really difficult. And I do have this temporary space that I can work in, but it's just small stuff I can do. Anyway, I've struggled to get back into making art. So I did join a group on, I guess it's, I don't know, on Facebook. It's called Find Your Flow, and it's like a 30-day process. So I set myself up for the next 30 days to hopefully finish. I have a lot of small pieces I could finish. So that's kind of good. And I guess I've really been hoping to connect with Raymond on with protocol.love. I'm waiting to hear your second part of your conversation, Jubilee, with him to see. And I don't want to step on anyone's toes, but I'm really excited because it sounds so similar to my imaginary system. We're both based on the Metacurrency project, so it's kind of cool. I'm hoping to connect with him maybe in the future, but I am looking forward to the second part of your conversation, and I will leave it there.
Yeah, definitely. I was very impressed by the discussion we had on protocol.love, and didn't manage to take a deeper look at it this week, unfortunately. But I feel like I really need to, because it sounds awesome. And yeah, so yes. And the last week I advanced my pet project a little bit, trying to prepare for the presentation and to tell you more about it today. And instead of making it more beautiful, I decided to change some things inside because I didn't work too well. And I did that, though, yeah, it took me all week to make improvements that you are not going to see, which is great.
All right. I think it doesn't sound like anyone had any pertinent hot seat questions, but if anyone does, they are welcome to jump into the hot seat. I did want to mention what you had mentioned, Shiloh. I had our first part of our conversation with Raymond Monday, Tuesday, whatever day that was. And then we had set up one for Thursday and it didn't happen. So we have one for Monday scheduled at 6 a.m. my time. So it has not happened yet, which is why I did not send you the link. And the link, I'm sure they will be public. I just am not going to make them public at the same time, the parts 1 and parts 2. So Raymond and I are both high proponents of transparency. So I can't imagine we're going to have it not be public at the end, but who knows? Who knows? I wouldn't mind if there isn't someone in the hot seat. Our conversation from yesterday, because I believe we were all there, right, for the marketing, and getting more into that conversation and how we craft a message for both Together Tech, right, the overarching umbrella, but also I watched the videos, just a few videos on closing the chasm. So I would be interested in talking about that, especially since it was written basically like 15, 20 years ago, the first one, and whether it, like, how much of that is pertinent to current technology and how much is pertinent to game B technology, and having that conversation. But if anyone needs help in their hot seat, I did want to touch on what Bentley had said about the dog breeds and finding out which side you need researchers on, and maybe we can brainstorm how to find you those other ones so you don't get crickets.
Yeah. I mean, I could use researchers on hopefully both sides. I don't know, like I have an advocate on one side. I'm going to find I have a resource. I mean, I know a website to go to that I'm going to reach out to and see if I can get an advocate on the other side. But I don't know if I can actually, I'm sure the advocates would be happy to kind of like give some technical resources, but I hate saying, hey, I got this project, why don't you come and enter all this data into my system? But maybe that's what I need to do, because if they're the advocates, they're the passionate people.
I'm guessing you have a pro Pitbull advocate, and because
Yeah.
I'm okay. I feel like
I think I know the website you're talking about.
No, actually, I don't have a pro Pitbull person.
Oh, okay. You have the other side.
And that's just
okay.
because I thought that was easy to get. So the
Yeah.
pro Pitbull band people I thought were the harder to find. So I have someone who's corresponded with me a couple times over email and seems willing to give feedback. But I don't know if I can actually ask her to, hey, criticize these 100 studies. Tell me what's wrong with them. Each individual one, and put that in context, and
Is that something that you could start with, like the top 5%, just to get it in there and just start showing people what it looks like?
Yes. Yeah, and like she came back and gave comments. Like I said, here's this kind of meta study that disagrees with you. Why do you disagree with it? And so she came back and said, yeah, the studies before X date, there wasn't a large enough population and stuff. So I do kind of need to put that stuff in, and I was struggling with how to put it in. So it's also a bit premature to get a researcher in if I don't know. But yeah, and then there's also the problem that a lot of those studies aren't public. So one is like $10 a day or $50 to buy permanent access, and that was just the first one I looked at. So I don't even know if I can get at the data unless I hire a researcher who already has access to a lot of the, you can buy subscriptions to those things.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess I really don't know what I'm doing. It would probably be helpful if I had someone that would be willing to that's interested in stuff like that and would be willing to kind of sit down and say, talk through these rebuttals from this advocate and then how to phrase things. I'm just kind of getting stuck trying to organize it all myself.
I'm wondering, the things that are coming to my mind are simply like Facebook groups that are both for and anti-ban of pit bull, right? Like most of the people with pit bulls aren't even going to be in those groups. It's more like love of my pit bull groups, right? Like pictures of dogs, and like dog loving groups are going to have both possibly. And then like pit bull loving groups. And then of course the people who are strong advocates against banning the breed are going to have advocacy groups and actually targeting like Reddit subreddits that are maybe focused on that, and Facebook groups that are for both camps, and finding a team of people to say, hey, do you want to be the pro or the pro this or the pro that side, and then letting them kind of figure out if, I guess, this is a project they want to be involved in. It's weird because it's less rivalrous, less controversial than a lot of the other ones that would be controversial more for us, but then you have less passion behind it. But I feel like this one, you actually have both. You actually have, it's less overarching.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There's still people who are passionate about both sides.
Yeah. Both sides might be very passionate about it, which can be good and bad. Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
How much of it is filled out now? Like if somebody goes to view that summary, if you're trying to be like, hey, come join this project, take a look at where it's at now. Can they go and see like the start of it?
In theory, yes. I have been reluctant to share it because it doesn't. I need to put a little disclaimer saying, hey, these numbers aren't meant to be final.
Right.
This is just kind of where we are right now. So yeah. So I think what I need to do is create a page, add a blurb, and then the other thing I need to do, which fits into this, is I have to have a quick kind of couple sentences explainer of how to use it, because otherwise people kind of come to the page and get lost because it's not too user friendly. So yeah, so I think yes, that's a good point as well. Make a page for it and a description. Yeah, so I guess I really need to take it to the next level of the page to where I can even just put comments on it, so people can not comment on the main thing, but can comment overall.
Right.
So I can get feedback immediately, and then So explainer saying that this is preliminary. I don't know of a good word.
Well,
I don't like.
I'm wondering if instead of going this is preliminary route, if you kind of want to use the whole page as bait, right? To like pre-populate it with 3 to 5 of the top things from each side, and say like, hey, this conversation is still happening. If you think that something is missing, or if you feel that the score is inaccurate, add to it.
Yeah, I haven't quite figured out how to phrase that. Yeah.
Because I've done a lot of this same thought for Wiki Election, where I know that if one group comes in and adds to a conversation, it's going to be one-sided to start with. So if you go to see the summary of something, you're like, this is wrong. Yeah, great. So tell us where it's wrong.
Right.
And then it's very wrong when they start.
Yeah, and then if you provide so much, the other side, well, the ball's back in their court now. You skewed it in that direction. Great. Hey, you guys, come chime in. Now you're losing.
Well, let's incentivization start with pit bulls are the devil incarnate. And this is where we're at 100%. That is accurate. and then let the other side
Yeah.
start to post it on the Reddits and the Facebook groups. Look, we've come to the conclusion that the other side is right. Take them in.
Exactly. Start because the funny thing is just prior to this this meeting starting, when it was just Julie and I were talking about some videos that Julie had watched. She had a quote that was like, "Yeah, I saw that video, but I didn't, I didn't disagree with anything, so nothing called me to come online and talk about it." And I was like, "That is an extremely important statement for this whole thing. It didn't anger me, so I didn't go online and want to talk about it."
Yeah, although if it's too much that way, people will just dismiss it.
Yes.
True.
Yeah.
Well,
Especially,
I think it
especially
needs
people in this.
Yeah,
And
I
that's
think
why it
the
needs to
tool
say-
kind of needs to filter out the anger and vitriol, because that's what's going to power, I think, a lot of these conversations in both of our tools, to let that drive
Yeah,
people to use it.
Yeah,
And
but
then
it's not,
it says,
right.
drop all that, just tell us your facts, and we'll.
Yeah, I just don't have the time to build that tech. That's
Right.
pretty complex. So I want to
Fair.
preempt it up front with the wording and say, this is what we have so far, and kind of like say, I mean, to get them motivated, we can say, if you don't put in the reasons why it's wrong, then it'll stay wrong, and we'll be promoting the heck out of it somehow. So yeah, an invitation to contribute so that people don't think that this is my conclusion. Yeah. So it's just kind of like phrasing that in a good way is one of the challenges.
No, not that this is in any way your job, Bentley, but with Reason Score, I feel like WikiLection would also possibly be, because as human beings, we have the emotion, right? We get angry, we get scared, we get to actually help people access what is not under that, but like, right, but we don't care about, right? You're not writing in that I'm angry, and it's like, what is under that anger? What is the actual facts that is fueling that anger? That is what we need, right? But to be able to get to it and get it articulated in a proper way, like, I think a lot of people are going to have difficulty with that, right? They come there with the emotion and they don't have a way to deal with that. And it's like, wait, no, I want to rant. I don't want to put in facts. But like having it be, I don't know, like a link to a tool, something else that someone else is doing of like, right, if you're here and you're angry and you can't, like, how do we get what we want out of you, what you're here to give out of you without it being trolls on the internet lobbing things back at each other.
Yeah. I like your idea of when I get that explainer down to go ahead and share it with different groups. I'm taking notes.
And it might always be one at a time. So, like, based on who's winning, talk to the other group and say, "Hey, the other team's winning. Go chime in." And then when that team chimes in and tips the scale in the other direction, "Hey, now they're winning. Go chime in."
How to start a war.
Yeah, exactly. You're trying to convince people. Because I think as much as you don't want like the emotion to cloud the conversation, I think it's important to be realistic and realize that, at least to start with, that's what's going to bring people there. They won't get interested. They won't spend the time if they're not, I hate to say it, if they're not angry. That's what's going to drive 98% of the interaction with both of our projects.
Yeah. I'm just wondering, like,
at least to start with.
Yeah, if I have comments down at the bottom, am I just going to get a whole bunch of...
Oh, to be clear, I don't mean comments. Like, WikiLection, one of the goals is there are no comments. You speak with data, not with words. You can't say it with data and evidence. You've got YouTube and everywhere else for that. Go spit your stuff there. This is about facts.
Yeah, the problem is it'd take a couple more months of my time to build the UI to be able to handle that. So what's the MVP project? And MVP project is let people spew in the comments.
What are you thinking of adding that would take a few months?
Well, to some sort of built-in tool. I mean, like, I can put a verbiage thing that says just put in facts and stuff like that, but people don't listen. I've done that on Facebook posts. No one has ever done it. So I don't think that'll be effective. I mean, sure, I'll do it, but it's not going to be effective.
Can it just be someone else can say this isn't a fact, right? You're ugly and your mother smells is like not a fact on pit bulls, like not. because they are breaking it down, right? Like I can't put in my whole diatribe for or against pit bulls and let someone else go at it. It's like literally pit bulls are responsible for 70% of the dog attacks. Well, is that true or not true? Like, is, like one study says they're 70%, one study says they're 10%. Well, depends on who saw the dog.
Yeah.
Like
right now they can't go into the graph of claims and add a child claim because I don't want it to immediately go in and just have it be filled with junk and people come in and see it and leave. So building a system to where they can add it and then like I have to approve it or something like that.
Got it.
Okay.
So that's that. I mean, it wouldn't take a couple months, but it would take more time. And I'm trying to see if there's a shorter way to test out the theory without doing that.
I think for now you got the first half of it. It's you. You just have those one-on-one conversations and say like, hey, here's, and you can even show them the front end of the tool and say, here's where the conversation is at now. Tell me why this is wrong. Tell me why that's right, etc. And then you can go in after and parse that information into how to actually put it into the tool. And then that whole thing of going back and forth and posting to groups and baiting people, you're still doing that. It's just you're acting as the tool in that case. You're acting as they talk to you and you have a conversation. And then at the end of that, you go spend 10 minutes and key all of it in. And then you'll figure out, oh, I can't log this. Oh, how do I log that?
Yeah. Yeah, so maybe just finding the advocate on the other side that I haven't found yet and just sending them the facts that I got from the other advocate. And then if they stop responding, then I could do it by a specific issue in the groups.
Yeah.
So I could post, here's the study. What do you think of this? Into one of the.
I almost wonder if you could like see the top level of conversation or actually use part of the back and forth through Reddit. So you can kind of have like, multiple comment streams and people can vote it up and down and sort of like that can kind of maybe help filter out, like the most important versus the stuff. And then if you post it in two different groups, like, a pro pitbull and anti pitbull group, you'll have different groups upvoting and downvoting comments that might help. And then you can actually make your sweeping, like, here's this stat. You can leave like a bait comment that people will try to debunk. And then they're now feeding you what you would feed into your tool to counter those points or to.
Reddit does have a hierarchy. I'll look into that.
I was also watching the Crossing the Chasm video, because I don't read. And at the end, it's like, here are the 4 things you need to do, one of which is know your competition. And your competition's like debates and documentaries, right? That is kind of how Game A, like right now, that's how we kind of try to, or news feeds or that kind of thing. Having possibly a debate between a pro and anti pitbull ban, and then putting that in, and then having each side go at the experts debate, right? Like, but having that as a starting point might be, because it both like brings in your competition, like people who are looking for a debate, watching a debate. Here's a thing that's the next level. That's not this. It's like when they're looking for your competition, they find you, and vice versa. I don't know if that speaks to you, but starting, and then what Adriel said about Reddit, because that is also kind of Kielo, and I think it's what it's called. And Reddit is like what we currently have in the technology space for debates of like upvote, downvote, all the pros, all the cons, read the whole thing. Yeah, using what's currently done as your competition, but using it as both a way for you to get the information that you need from it and as a way to get future people involved.
Yeah, are you suggesting to find a debate that's already happened, or to
yeah, I mean, that works too. But yeah, that under reason score, right? Finding 2 people to debate. This is what it currently looks like, and here's what we're doing with it. Yeah, and you doing that to the best of your ability.
I think it'd be really hard to convince 2 people to debate on video on this, but that's an option.
Yeah. Debates tend to be harder just because it's like a live thing, and our current format for debates is completely fucking terrible. Like, it's atrocious. And that's just like humanity's ability. I've never seen a debate that was actually good, because you can just spew out lies, and it's really hard to catch those in real time. I think, again, for both of ours, our end goal is to be able to facilitate a better debate system. I almost wonder if you could like figure out what you want out of the debate and sort of act as like the in-between yourself. I think for a lot of it, you're going to end up being the system between those until you like are able to build these systems to do it for you.
Yeah. So yeah, I think I need to find a anti-ban advocate. I'm thinking about reaching out to the public official that started doing the Denver thing. I doubt he'll have time, especially with COVID going on. But then there's a couple of there's a couple websites that are, well, there's one specifically against breed specific legislation, so hopefully they'll have someone. So I'll just reach out to them. Yeah, it's really hard to explain to someone, hey, I want to have you do this slow debate that's scored. It's just, yeah, I'm just being cautious because I don't want to burn these people and having them misunderstand the situation. But I'm probably being too cautious. This one, they're advocates. They want to get their story out as much as possible. So I think they're really much more flexible than I'm giving them credit.
Yeah. I do wonder if maybe you don't even want to lead with the reason score tool thing. Like, just start off with asking them, hey, somebody said this, how would you counter that? Like, just see if they're interested in interacting on that level. And then if they are, maybe do it again. And if they are again, then say, oh, hey, cool, thanks. By the way, I'm doing this for this, if you're interested.
Yeah. Yeah, that was kind of successful with the first person.
Okay,
so,
cool.
Yeah, I think I'll still lead with that on the second. And then I'm about to share the reason score debate sometimes this week with the pro-ban person, anti-ban. And then, yeah. So I think, an introductory email asking if, here's a few questions brought about this other thing. I'm doing some research. And then if they respond, then I can maybe share the debate after I've caveated that this is very, your information's not in here. So just because it says you're a liar doesn't mean that's what I believe. Okay. Anyways.
Right, and that's the the caveat message you were talking about that you want to add. Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Think so. You're dealing with pit bull bans, and so there's pro and anti people on that, and then their data, their information, how they've made those assessments, and getting those in facts. I don't know if either of those people, like on the different sides, are necessarily going to be the people who want to input data into the system if it feels like inputting data into the system. Right. But there's going to be people who like inputting data into the system that are more focused on that, right? That they don't care about pit bulls, they care about reason score. And those people are like your free source of labor that you want to, and those are like the innovators you want to get that are different than like the reason score innovators of how do you capitalize on that? Like, where do you find those people? Where do you find the people who are the data? They're okay putting the data in, whether it's paying them $5 an hour from a different country where they're all stuck at home right now, or like either crowdfunding for paying people and or finding people who actually this is their thing they really want to be doing. And I guess those people exist. People like putting in data.
Okay. So you're saying like focus on finding the person who's interested in sense making and actually reason score as a project, and they can translate whatever conversation is happening in the pitbull debate.
More so, yeah. Be Bentley, because that's the right. You're doing the coding. And you need someone to actually put the input. The people who are going to be good at thinking about the pro and cons of the pitbull aren't necessarily the ones who, unless it's super easy for them to input that, like in Kielo, you know what I mean, where they're there for that. Even then, I like debate and I don't like Kielo. Like, I'm like, this does not work for my brain. This is not how I think. I don't add to that. I don't want to add to that. So like tapping into the people that want to add and the reason they're there, right? I don't know if they're necessarily overlapped in the same people. You want the people who are passionate to give you the information, and you want the people to put it in, and they're probably not the same people.
Yeah, and even not just putting it in, but I mean the people that are passionate, they'll do a certain amount of in-depth research, but I don't think they quite take it far enough, because well, maybe if I challenge them back and forth. But yeah, I do think there are people out there that really enjoy having, organizing data and having data in the right place on stuff. So finding them would be great. I also do like the idea of doing a crowdsourcing for it. And that's the thing where I might do 2 GoFundMe campaigns, one for each side of the debate. And, anytime one gets above the other, tell the other group, hey, they're beating you. Once again, use this game A rivalry to move us into game B. But yeah. Except the thing is, though, it's kind of a bootstrapping issue. I don't think anyone will donate to that funding campaign because they don't know what the value of Reason Score is. So I have to do one first. So the question I'm dealing with is, do I just hire a researcher with my own money and then prove that, hey, this really helped? And then if I'm doing that, is this debate, does this really show the value of it, or is there a better topic? So I don't know all that stuff, but yeah, eventually doing crowdfunding to pay people, because I don't know that anyone's ever going to be passionate enough about data entry and research to do it without being paid. Just because, I mean, people have different passions.
But passionate about data entry. They need to be passionate about something like Reason Score, where like they don't necessarily care about the issue. They care enough about, okay, I really like what you're trying to do, and I want to help you test it and get it to that point. So if I have to enter, about pit bulls or about, I don't know.
And that would be the same sort of people that are
whatever it is.
Right. That's the same sort of people that are passionate about Wikipedia and stuff like that.
Right.
I just don't. It's not at the place yet where people can see the value of Reason Score.
Right. Well, I think no matter what, you're still step one. There's no getting around that, because it sounds like the platform isn't built for anyone but you to do data entry. So I think step one is you are that person.
Well,
that
I mean,
step.
other
You're
people can.
hopeful.
I just think
Your next step is to replace you with somebody else, a single person that can get trained on how to use it, and then you can use that as sort of a testing ground for how usable it is. How much hand-holding do they need? If this is like a person who is good at data entry and they can't use it, probably needs some usability work. If you hand it over and they dive in and they can make full use of it, that's a fantastic sign.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's not that hard to use. Anyone can use it. I mean, the architect friend I have is using it right now, and he's put in 30 claims in his thing.
Okay.
The problem is that it's just painful and boring. The harder thing is actually the research.
Right.
Which I think, if right now, I think what Adriel said, finding one person to do it is probably the ideal, the MVP that's the easiest finding, and therefore, yes, you will probably have to pay them.
Yeah.
So outsourcing it, finding someone who can afford to be paid what you can afford to pay under this one, finding someone who's also under the umbrella of really liking this, it'd be awesome, that they can see the vision and want to be doing it, and they're getting paid so that they can put food on the table in a country where, your whatever much you can pay is the equivalent. Not the point, what was I going to say? That, and if and when this can be made into piecemeal information, and I can do it in 10 minutes, right? I don't need to sit down for 40 hours a week to input this. I can do it 10 minutes here and 10 minutes there. Research, if the researchers can research and just like correlate code, that's the wrong word, bring that information together and pass it down to the data entry people, who then can piecemeal it in a way where you're like, right, 10 minutes. And because you need to be repetitive anyway, right? You need to be putting it in, like 4 people putting it in to see, is it accurate? Is it the same as all 4 of these people putting it in? When you have enough of those people, and there's millions of people on there, because they'll be able to see Reason Score, though, who wouldn't put in 15 minutes of time, right? If they're able to do that. Is it easy enough that and can those 15 minutes of time add up? No, not right now. Now you do need a handful of people who are rather dedicated to doing this process, who are both the researchers and the data entry people, and are being probably paid for it.
Yeah, so I just need to decide on my own how much money am I willing to put in this. I mean, as it is, I'm foregoing my complete salary. So, but should I add on to that and shorten my runway on this project? Which, if it gets there faster, it's not shorter, but...
I think one, I don't want to say simple step, but one possibly useful step is, as you're acting as the system, do super boring live streams where you're going through it and say, okay, here's what I'm processing. Here's me putting it into Reason Score. And it sounds like right now it's going to be boring because it's data entry, but it's kind of to use it as, again, a very dry form of documentation that you can continue to improve, and you can go out and that's a great 2-minute slice of me explaining this part of it. I'm going to pull that out, and now that's some video, so that when you have a collection that says how to use it, you can then pass that on to the first person who's not you, that you want to use it for that kind of data entry. And then that becomes your first form of documentation, and then you can bring in more people, and that might also paint a picture of where you need to make improvements for usability.
Yeah, that's I'll have to think about that. A challenge with that is that most of the time trying to figure out how to put it in is done while I'm taking a shower. It's like you go and you do some research and it's like, how the heck am I going to do that? And then it's a couple of hours of walking around the house and doing other things. It's like, oh, well, I guess I can. Yeah, but
I'm glad to hear I'm not the only one.
Yeah, right. But that's still definitely something to consider, especially after I've had the thoughts, maybe coming back and explaining, okay, here's the response I got from this person. This is how I think about putting it into the thing, and then explain, it took me a couple hours of pondering to figure this out. Of course, it'll get faster as I get more used to it, but yeah, so that's a good idea.
Can I... is there time for two people to be in hot seat in one meeting?
Yeah.
Sorry, because it started. No, I didn't want to interrupt the reason score discussion, but I did want to get some opinion about my project.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah,
if possible. So it's kind of complicated because. What I'm trying to do is, it's big, and it's probably way too big, and it's even difficult to describe it sensibly in a short enough period of time. But it might be the case that my competition is actually talking about the Crossing the Chasm, right? The book is. I was looking for a competition so I could join them and help, because what I care about is more something being done than just doing it myself. And what I wanted to be a part of was basically mapping the whole space of game B, and generally not game A stuff, right? Because when I started understanding this dynamic between game A, game B, as we call it now, it was a couple of years ago, and I was unable to find a definite source of information about who is out there, what they are doing, and what is going on outside of the strictly business and government hierarchy. What I was able to find was basically lots of scattered projects and people trying to do something, and it looked like great plains and ivory towers all over the place. And what I was missing was a map of the territory. And my impression was that okay, there are millions of projects, but they are sometimes not even aware of each other's existence, and it might be better if there was one, I don't know, web page or one system that could hold the information about all of them, and preferably even facilitate some kind of communication or some kind of, a big blackboard or dashboard or something like that. So someone who is either new to this arena, or someone who wants to join, or someone who is just feeling that there is something not right with the world right now and something maybe needs to be done, and what I can do myself. It's not that easy to enter the space and be able to see straight away that, okay, this is something I can actually do right now where I am, and what I, with my skills, it's complicated. So there is basically the message is there is no map, and that's why GameB mapping group exists. I guess. There are tools, but and they're kind of similar, but there is no database, there is no catalog, there is no directory of who is out there and what they are doing. So because I was unable to find competition, or rather find this place that I wanted to see, it's not there. I of course started to build it, and I managed to involve a couple of threads from other stuff that I wanted to do over the years as well, like project management, which I used a lot of different project management software tools, but none of them was the best. So I wanted to have something better, preferably something that is also built, which has built-in documentation system, and something that is like integrated thing. So then I thought, okay, if there was a map of who is doing what in game space, maybe something like simple project management tool could be useful, because it would allow, for example, tracking projects of I mean, if there was a group doing something like project A, it would be useful to see in what state the project is currently, right? I'm not sure if I'm making much sense, but I'm trying to describe.
Can you define it like a bit more about what you mean by project when you're talking about like what exists in the game space?
Just anything. Someone is building solar panel thing for a house, for example.
Okay.
Or someone
are you talking about like a project that's trying to create something, as opposed to like sort of the theory crafting and the discussion and the ideas, or do you mean both?
Both. I mean, anything is a project. A group usually gathers around something that they want to be built, and it varies from like wiki actions, for example. Like your projects are examples of what is out there, what is not game A, and what is going, I would say, for the greater good. But you know what I mean. Not game A, like set of projects, and I wanted to something like that to be done. And I also have an impression that it is needed because people talk about it, and every now and then I hear, okay, it would be great if we knew that who's out there. Like it would be great if there was this one resource, one page, one system that we could access and immediately be able to see what's going on. Because now we don't, and there is like lots of going on. It just not necessarily everything is was revealed to us, right? And in order for cooperation to happen between groups and individuals, information is needed. Like, this is what we have, this is what exists, and these are groups I could join. These are groups that are doing projects that are interested to me because of something. Generally, and I know this is big.
Sure. And did you say that you had already started to build something in this space, or you were just doing the competitive research to see if something already exists?
I was doing some research, not very deep, but I think I have quite a comprehensive picture of the possibilities, starting with HoloWeb, which is awesome, graphically at least. I was missing some functionality inside, so it's not quite what I was looking for. So I started building something. I wanted to show it to you, but I wanted to show it like full of data already, which did not happen, as I said in the beginning, because I was busy with fixing bugs. Now. Oh.
So how much data do you have in your version of it right now?
My data is scattered all over the place in various notepads and stuff like that, because Yeah, as I said, I didn't manage to get it in. Okay, how do I show it? Last week I was able to show it, not this
You
week.
should have a way to share screen here if you want to. I think it's on the bottom.
Yeah, but it says your browser doesn't support screen sharing.
No.
Why?
What browser
It
are
used
you
to
using?
work.
Just using a regular browser?
Yeah. No,
Okay.
Chrome. It used to work.
You
No,
might
it
have to
doesn't.
enable it. You might see if there's a warning in the upper right-hand corner of your browser. Usually a symbol with a cross through it or something.
Yeah.
To allow that.
No.
Here,
Just worked
let's
just a
just
couple of weeks ago.
double check to make sure that like it's not a setting for you. No, I can only do two things, neither of which is helpful.
Yeah, I know other people. Some random person tried to share their screen yesterday and tried to jump into my broadcast and was not happy that I wasn't letting them come on. So, I mean, I know that
Yeah,
it's
I know
not
that-
just because we're admins that we have share
Yeah.
screen.
No, and I in the after session yesterday with Cesare, he ended up sharing a screen and he was able to. So I almost wonder if it's because we have so many people or
No, because there should be a sixth option, and there's other people that can join in, so we can add it in as the
It's
sixth.
on my. I'm going to reconnect because it must be something on my. Okay, quit 1 second. Leave.
All right. Something while he's reconnecting. The idea, unfortunately, I don't think Bentley made the mapping call either, and I didn't make the mapping call. I don't know if anyone made the mapping call. I don't know if Matoush was on the mapping call, but there's something about the fact that we're trying to map terrain that isn't known that means you can't do it on your own. You actually kind of need almost everyone to bring their map, and then how do we combine them? Or we need a brainstorming session on what the fuck is this terrain? Like how do I envision game A, right? Because it's like different things are going to be for me, and therefore that's going to reflect in game B, right? That economics and healthcare and finance and all of these things, like what does that look like to me so I can map it into game B? And because it looks so differently, right? If we're trying to map Vancouver, we can argue, right? There's like measurement, whereas when you're trying to map terrain that isn't
like,
known.
if you're trying to map Vancouver, what goes on the map? Do mountains? Do rivers? Do streets?
Yeah.
And if you're trying to map game B, like what are we considering game B? Is it sense making? Is it anti-rivalrous? Is like what goes on the map is what I'm hearing.
Yeah,
Like,
and what is under
you know,
the one versus the other that like there is. Just where did you have the share screen option at the bottom now?
I do have the option. It still says it doesn't. Your browser does not support screen sharing. Please use Chrome on your laptop desktop, which is what I'm doing.
You're on Chrome and it's not letting you. Yeah, that's no idea.
That's terrible.
What kind of a device are you on?
A normal laptop. Like
Like
it
a
was
Windows
working
laptop?
fine just a couple of days ago. Oh yeah, I hate it. Okay. Let me try something different.
Because while you're doing that, it sounds like one of the possible competitors to your project is Together Tech.
No.
No. And to be clear, I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. I was actually going to say that if you're trying to find data, you might want to go check there and you can pull out maybe Wiki Election and Reason Score, add them to yours to see how it looks, to see.
Yeah, from what I understand,
when you were talking about it, everything you were talking about, I was like, this sounds like Together Tech, trying to create a map of all the projects and what they're doing and where they're at and who's involved. Now, it's not that robust yet. I think if you're actually coding something, that can get better than the prototype fairly quickly.
So by no means that this is like a competition thing, because what I want to see is I want to create a system, like a software thing, and I think it works just as it's supposed to with people who are with you, right? Because I started creating it for myself, so I have this small map of stuff out there, and I think it has potential to grow enough to be useful for, unless of course you want to create a software system that does exactly this, in which case I would be more than happy to join, because as I said, I'm not doing this for to this is my pet project, and I want it to be, I don't know, financially successful, for example. It's not this case. The case is I want to see the system exist, and I want it to work. And what we discussed yesterday when we talked about hiring some foreign programmers to do the work, and whether we should be worried, or you should be worried about them hijacking the project. From my perspective, if someone wants to hijack it and to advance it, by all means, please, because then I will be able to join. And
I think we're getting into the very big difference between competition in game A versus game B. And part of it is what I was saying with Bentley, with the crossing the chasm, is there's always competition, right? When we first invented the wheel, there was no wheel, so you weren't in competition with other cart, but you were in competition with our feet, right? What were people doing to transport themselves from A to B? And so right now, there isn't any competition because we all know we need, there's many people working on this mapping problem of how do we get a directory of people and projects and know what the fuck is going on, right? But because everyone, and this is where you popped up, I was just saying that I don't know, did you attend the mapping conversation last week on
Yes.
on it? Okay, because I don't know, I didn't, so I don't know whether part of my issue with game B mapping anything is that we're trying to map terrain that isn't seeable, right? So like, even if we were mapping Vancouver, we could theoretically do it. We'd have to have a conversation about, are we including mountains, are we including the topography? But we could map Vancouver because it's not something we can physically see. We have to figure out what is involved in it, and then how do we even visualize it, and how do we create it so that it makes sense to all of us? Because if what you're doing is creating a map that you can follow, it's all great that it makes sense to your brain and but like, if we want a map that we can follow when someone's lost, to be like, so we can guide them to where we are, right? And actually be a map, then like, I feel like there's a big step game B is missing of, which is possibly what the conversation was, of we need to brainstorm what that looks like. What's on the map, and then how do we visualize it, and how do we put it there? What are the tools we need, and then making it together. And that's what Together Tech is doing, is somewhat figuring out what can we do from this space. You have the tech skills to be able to actually create what's in your mind, but is it any more useful if we haven't brainstormed what is there? Yes, you might happen to stumble upon the perfect thing that makes sense to my brain and Adriel's brain and Shiloh's brain. But the chances of that, if we're not involved in that process, it's like figuring out how do we brainstorm what needs to be on the map and then letting the coders code it is kind of like, whereas coders just want to code it. Like they're just like, I can visualize it, I can code it and then use it, but it's not usable because it's not for everyone's brain, if that makes sense. Like game B needs to, for the technology piece of it, take a step back, which is kind of like we're trying to do with Wiki, and be like, what does that look like to map it? And I don't, again, know what that, I think it was like a 6-hour conversation was.
Yes.
Did it get into the brainstorming? Did it get into at least that piece of it that we need to kind of come from the base in order to get that? Or what was that conversation?
I don't think it got to the point of actually brainstorming what it would look like. What we discussed was the systems out there, mapping systems, but like general mapping systems, which is the brain and some other mind mapping software, which is, great. The software is great. What we didn't discuss is how it translates to game B space and whether it's the best or even good enough tool to visualize what you just said. So, and I'm here to preferably show it, but I cannot still, I don't know, something prevents it from being shown.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Out of curiosity, Shiloh and Bentley, can both of you see the share screen and it's not grayed out or anything?
Well, I have the button, but I haven't tried it, which he's getting an error when he tries it. So.
Okay.
Share screen, sharing screen tips. Don't show these tips again.
Yeah, I mean, I'm less interested if you can do it, Jubilee, because we're admins. So
No, I know, but even then, Bentley's screen.
Yeah, I mean,
Chrome has a bug that can cause screen sharing to crash on Windows 10. It's pretty rare. If it happens, you may want to use Firefox to share your screen. We're working with Chrome team to see it fixed quickly.
Oh, interesting.
So that might be might be the issue, is that there's this glitch and Chrome doesn't want anyone else using any other thing. I'm sure they're working real hard to help StreamYard get that fixed. But
So
that
I'm
is
I can do it in Firefox.
we're figuring this out. We only have a minute left anyway, so I feel like we should do a project raising actually on your particular mapping and set aside a time and then figure out the sharing and actually do that. But that, because this seems to be something that most people in Game B know we need this, right? We need mapping. We need a map of what the fuck we're doing and who's here, what are your skills and what are your projects and how do they interrelate and who's doing what. And yet because all of the tech people and the people who can do it are making it, it's like we have 8 different competing projects. We have Janelle's system and Kylie's system and all of these different things that are all actually that, but they're all beta and none of them are great. Like none of them are the thing where you're like, oh yes, because we haven't done it together, right? And that is, I think Adriel's, just because we've had the conversations, is the closest, knowing that NAC isn't the thing that it's going to be, but it's the closest we have right now. And how do we use it? And yet it's still that same thing unless people are using it. And all of them are. If everyone used Janelle's, it could work. If everyone used Kylie's, it could work good enough. But if they own it, then we can improve it. And so like having something that we can actually improve, that's open to feedback, that's also the thing we've kind of all decided is the beta that we're going to improve, so that we can focus both our money, our resource, everything on improving it. And then this is the one place I know to put together is tech stuff and the events. And, you know, if I have to put my events on all the different things and even just the project on all the different things, it's dissipating the energy instead of like bringing that energy together. Like there's a need, there is a competition, but there's also like, it's not quite fixing the problem, which is very like, we're so in Game B, right? Like this is an omni-win thing. We all need it. Yet because all of the people working in their own, not self-interest, like in Game A way, where you're trying to earn money, but in your own self-interest, like I want this tool to work this way, which is great, but then it will work for exactly one person. And then it doesn't work because you need everyone's information on it and everyone to be there to make it work. And so taking that step back and saying, how can we brainstorm together as Game B to say, what do we want in a mapping tool if we're brand new? What is it? Because I think there's commonality that we all like, that we want the project, we want the people, we want to know what skills and interests the people have. We want to be able to have conversations. We want to, and then create it from that base. And we don't even need to recreate it. Looking at what's out there and then saying what's the best we got right now. And then putting our will behind that one. Like, this is the one we're going to use. But Game B is so fractured that it like, you know, like that we can't even have that conversation to bring those people together to say, hey, let's pick one. I don't even know if we're at that stage yet. It's basically just everyone fly with it until one works, which is a lot of people dissipating their energy and our resources, right? Because I'm sure like Game B, not pay me because I want to earn money, but pay me like this costs money to create it. But there's all of those things. So we're not going to pay for any particular one unless it's like the wiki for Game B. And even that is probably going to be competing with all these other things, which although aren't competition, are competition. Like they're actually costing Game B something, if any of that makes sense.
Well,
and
when you're talking about competition too, there's multiple kinds. There's like direct competition is doing exactly what you are. There's like, you know, quasi competition where it's like they do some of the same features, but like technically if somebody's shopping around, like it's probably going to pull them in one direction strongly or another. And then there's, I think what's called elastic competition, where it's like they're kind of in the same space vaguely. So like in the Game A world, they aren't a direct competitor, but like, you know, since you're competing for share of wallet, it's about like what else could somebody be spending money on, where like in their mind it's kind of a part of the same, you know, line in their budget, like entertainment. And then for Game B, it's not so much about share of wallet, but it's more like share of attention. Like what could somebody else be spending time on there, where it's not talking about that competition in crossing the chasm because that's too broad, but the other two kinds. Like when I say competition, Bentley and I are technically in competition in a lot of ways because we're both in sort of sense-making things, trying to figure out, you know, how you can get to the truth using the information available. We're coming at it in different ways. Most likely the end products are going to be very different, and it's not to say that we'll necessarily step on each other's toes, but there's definite overlap.
Mm-hmm.
And
that is
one of the
that
goals
competition, that internal drive.
Is how do we work together as competitors to use that as a strength instead of the Game A where we're trying to eat each other's lunch and it's a zero-sum game and only one of us can win, because for one of us to win, we have to sabotage the others.
Yeah. So definitely past the hour, but I just want to I think all of us are pro competition in that way, right?
Yeah.
Like when we say your competition for Together Tech, we don't mean leave and don't come back. How dare you? It's just like, yes, this is also a problem we're trying to solve.
Yeah.
And it dissipates.
Also, please come to the conversations where we're trying to solve Together Tech problems.
yes, absolutely.
Weirdly enough, my vision for Together Tech, I want competitors. I want people out there doing things slightly different to see how that works. Like, A/B testing for projects. Oh, he's doing something slightly similar, but he's doing it in this other way. Great. Keep doing that. We'll work together, and then we'll see how our strategies differ. Oh, you're getting more users. Oh, interesting. Why is that happening? Oh, because this part is more appealing. Cool. Can we adopt that? Or is that project just so much better designed from the start that we should just merge projects and keep going in that direction?
And that is like this is an energy, a dynamic, and something we have to figure out in individuals and game B is like, as an individual, I have an internal drive of innovation that I want to be able to follow. And at the same time, that's not necessarily the highest impact for the world in the project. How do I use that energy, come together and create something even better together? Right now, we don't know how to do that. So our best option is what we are doing, which is having our individual projects. Do you want to come on board to ours? Do we want to come on board to yours? Versus like this brainstorming of like, what does that mapping look like? And then how do we create it from the ground? And I'm looking at that as solution raising. How do we create a solution together? Because we haven't figured it out so that we can tap into that individual innovative energy and have it kind of work in the greater good. Because it's like, I don't want people giving me homework, right? I don't want to give Matoush homework and be like, hey, have a mapping session and then make what we want you to make. Because that's not necessarily what you want to make, but there has to be a like connection of those two, right? That like what the individual innovator wants to actually code and have their brain work through is what the group wants so that it meets 90% of our needs instead of making 99% of the innovator's needs, right? Of the person who makes it. And then it's not meeting the other one's needs. Like finding how do we square that hole? How do we actually have innovation work? Because otherwise we have all of these not so great betas. Any of them can be made better by us coming on board and putting in the energy and putting in the ingenuity. But the fact that they all exist dissipates it. And then the next person's like, wait, there's no map. I need to make the map. The next person's like, oh, there's no map. I need to make the map. And we need a map that we can all follow together. And it's like in that ickiness of like, right, but it's mine, but it's yours, but we need it. But there's like so much energy at play that is like what we have to figure out together is how do we get that focus. And then we have game B. Like we really do when we're able to innovate collectively together in a way that satisfies the individual's innovation where they don't feel like they're getting homework and they're getting other things put on them aren't theirs. And yet they're doing their stuff and collectively together, it's harnessed for the greater good, right? That like you making your project actually is great. Matoush has that. He's awesome at it. We know we can hand it to him and he's going to make a map for all of us because he took in our stuff, but he's going to make it in his own unique artistic way. It's going to bring that stuff in. And like weaving that together is like the mapping does it, but we need the mapping first, but it's all chicken and egg and beautiful. Any final comments?
Awesome.
Now that we're 10 minutes over.
So we're going to do a meeting on that.
Sorry?
Okay. So we're going to do a meeting on that then.
Do we want to do our own meeting on mapping? They already did 6 hours.
Just Martouche's idea.
Okay. Do you want to do that, Matoush?
Of course.
All right.
That's why I started to talk about it. Because now I spent years in my programming cave doing my things, and it's just not an sensible way forward. So I am very glad to have calls.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So either you can do the hot seat next time, or we could schedule a dedicated meeting. I'm fine with either way.
Yeah, that'd be great. Either way. Did I hear correctly that there are 8 different mapping projects right now?
I made up a number. My brain, but there's definitely a lot of people have the NAC one that just Together Tech that we're trying to do it.
And it's cool to map all the mapping projects.
Yeah, that's true. But Janelle has her own. Kylie has her own, and those are just the people I've had face-to-face conversations with. Forget about all the Holochain and DAO Stack projects that also have their version of Like actually just, and then, everyone with their Medium articles of like, here's my understanding of what game B is, that no one has actually taken game B and mapped it. And yet because everyone, like, yes, it's a mess and it's a beautiful mess. It's what it currently is.
So can we have in the meeting also everyone who is producing their own version of the map? It would make most sense, I think. I'll fix my screen sharing.
Many people in one session. I think if some, like, we can put it out there after we pick the time and say, hey, we're doing this for this. If you're having a similar project, please come join. We haven't had great success in getting people to join. It's a lot of the same crew, which is fine. But so far, that's a challenge that.
Would anyone, so I'm just going to ask Matusha, particularly since it's your project that we're going to be doing a project raising on. Would you rather do a project raising on it in that it is you're in the hot seat, you're the one setting the intention, and therefore it wouldn't necessarily make sense to have, stop! My vacuum's trying to go off and it won't stop. That having, whether you would want to have a project raising or a solution raising. Because we could do a solution raising on mapping where we talk about what it looks like, what it could look like, and what we could do with let's go with 1,000 people and $10,000 because Game B is a much smaller community than the world. But like to do a solution raising where we're not bringing our individual projects to it, right? It's just here's what the map could look like if we were doing a map together. Or do you want to focus on what you've already put your energy and time into and making it better? Like, do you want to go back to the drawing board and brainstorm what it could look like? It doesn't mean you have to do it. The solutions aren't, someone has to take this now and make it. It's just like brainstorming in like an open blank space.
Okay, solution raising sounds great. Of course, I'm going to be, I'm biased, but not necessarily in my own project's way. I am biased in seeing things my own way. So what I am going to be talking about probably, and is like this way I see things. Solution raising is better in this case because I'm more happy to adjust my whatever I am doing to fit something that is considered better, because I acknowledge that my way of seeing things might be incomplete or in some ways not good for anyone else but me. And I would rather change this idea of how it should look like and then do real work to make it happen, instead of just advancing my project in hope that what the project does will be useful for the public. So solution raising is better.
All right, so you and I will set up a time for solution raising, and then we can put it in the mapping space, in the Game B space, whoever wants to come to that. And just, it's a conversation. It's not about those 5 people become the mappers and they create, it's just 5 people getting together and then brainstorming from that blank space. And we all bring our bias to it, our individual bias, our project bias. That's kind of the point of kind of creating that blank space. And then after that, whatever comes out of that, we could do a solution rate. We could do a project raising on.
Cool. For you. In the Facebook post, we specifically call the people that we know are working on similar projects.
Yeah, like tag them, Janelle and Kylie and whoever else. Yeah, sounds good.
And just one final comment is, yes, we spent 6 hours in the mapping meeting, but the solutions we talked about and systems we talked about were, I feel, far bigger and greater than what we can sensibly do in small amount of time. So it was a great 6 hours, definitely, and very successful in us having talked about many things and many different things. But some small specific solution that we can have right now, which is as simple, or maybe not that simple, but still a map, a catalog, something that we can create in short span of time. It's better to have something and then work further and create some 3D interface on top of it, having the data already in place, than starting with beautiful, what we discussed, beautiful 3D sphere of everything, and then figuring out how to get data in and how to show all the details and everything. So, yeah.
Sounds good. So solution raising, we'll set it up together and then we can put it out there and then we can see if the mapping people want to come. It's not really, it's solution raising is a thing in and of itself. So then we can post that and be like, hey, watch this hour and get what you want out of it. Go with it. If there's a lot of interest, I say we do it on a Zoom call and have people break out and do the solution raising separate and then see what they come up with, right? Like, I don't know how that's going to work because I can't be at those individual tables, but it's structured. So it's like 15 minutes on this, 15 minutes on that, and then 30 minutes on the adjacent possible. And I think, although I kind of do want to stick with $10,000, $100,000, just because I think $100,000 is a more, but maybe $1,000 and $100,000. Everyone would be putting in $100, which is ridiculous for the project. But figuring out what could we do if we got together and created something as opposed to each individual.
There is no contradiction. If we had a system that maps stuff, like what already happened, food, packaging, energy, something, these are all subsets of like branches of the main tree of problem, which is how to fix the world. And then you have like different stuff. Yeah. And each of those is its own project. Each of them has its own 10,000 people. There might be intersection, but still, the thing is, there's one problem, and then it fractals off to be, yeah.
All right, yeah. So we can set that up. We'll do, and then we can do, like I said, if you want to, after we can do a project raising on whatever comes out of there. For if you want to take that project and run with it, because someone does need to take ownership, but at the same time, if everyone's taking ownership, it's chaotic, fun, game B mess. It's just how things are going.
For like when I first had this idea of I don't know, it was 2014, something like this. 6-7 years ago, when I started digging into like alternatives to the current system. I mean, long before that, there were like glimpses of there is other world, but 2014 is, I think, this when I started really looking at what's out there. And for the past 6 years, I hear people talk about, we need this, but sometimes somehow it never materialized enough extent that it would be useful and it would actually map anything. So someone needs to do it. I am happy to take ownership of the mapping thing. Whatever is decided is the best way of mapping. Yeah, we see.
Yeah, I'm just giggling at Adriel's message inside BYO bias. Bring your own bias to this conversation. Yeah, so we'll set that up. Your last name starts with SZ on Facebook?
Yes,
okay.
That's me.
Then, yeah, it's there. I will message you and we can set up a time for the two of us and then put it out to everyone else to do the solution raising and then the rest of the Game B space. And then we'll either be on Zoom or StreamYard and figure it out from there.
I can feel
All
the
right,
energy.
We're like 20 minutes past. Let's say goodbye to YouTube and Facebook and then we can.
Thank you. Bye.